Maybe it was Max Dupri.
Oh my! Well, okay, you know what? I'm going to even do the edit marker here because it's going to be a full stop, a record break, everything of what we're talking about. We didn't watch any wrestling this week. Jim and I both forgot there was a pay-per-view. And there was a pay-per-view, and it was Money in the Bank, and it really meant a lot, so much that we forgot a couple days before that there was a pay-per-view and just never watched it. There was also Smackdown and Rampage. I don't think we watched
Yeah, well, I've been busy. I'll talk about that at some point in this show. I've been busy the last 2 days, but yeah. But by popular demand, we had to go back and look for something.
There was something that a lot of listeners started getting in touch with me on Twitter and via email about Friday night into Saturday into Sunday. That Max Dupri, the former LA Knight, who was the former, was it Eli Drake? Eli Drake. He is now...
Did you just say Eli Drake?
I don't know why I said, I guess, I don't know why I thought that was his name for a second there. But Eli Drake, now in WWE, as Max Dupri, the leader of the Maximum Male Models.
MMM.
It's gone nowhere. By the way, is this the most amount of Maxes we've had in wrestling at the same time? And
I think it's the maximum amount.
The maximum Maxes. Max Caster, Max Dupri, of course, MJF is Maxwell Jacob Friedman, I guess it is. And then there was Max Dupri and his models, and I heard about this, so I started watching it. And I didn't even know what to say, and I realized you have to listen to the live commentary or whatever you want to call it from Dupri to really gauge it. So then I begged you to please watch it to justify the fact that I watched it.
And his guys it was ma.cé and Mace, and now it's ma.cé and ma.cé.
ma.cé.
Ma.cé and ma.cé. Ma.cé and ma.cé with Max Dupri, but where do I start? I was so embarrassed I met this guy when I did the NWA commentary, and also he was in TNA when it was Global Force, and him talking as Eli Drake or now I'm trying to remember all of his fucking
Eli
names.
Drake.
No, it's not Eli.
Oh, LA Knight.
Now you're going to throw me off even further. It's the 4th of July. Fuck you. When he was Eli Drake and later when he was LA Knight.
Yeah.
He could talk. He was glib. He couldn't just do a promo with what he wanted. He could talk off the top of his head. And we talked about that, especially in NXT there. He was experienced. He could work. They put him in with these other green guys to have good matches. He was a classic pro wrestling style pro wrestler. And he's a grown adult man with a fairly good physique, especially in the field of this day and age, right? With guys looking like grown adult men.
He looked more like a classic wrestler than anyone else that was in NXT.
Yes, and I'm not saying that I would have or anybody else was going to book him against Brock Lesnar in the main event at next year's WrestleMania or whatever. I'm not going that far, but considering the available talent and the playing field, especially with his experience, and he's in his 30s, he's mature and he can talk and he has personality and he would go out and try to get shit over. But what I was about to say was I've met him, and as that person, Eli Drake or LA Knight, he was talking fairly like a guy with turning up his personality, like all the classic gimmicks. They said it's just him with his personality turned up to whatever. Well, he was turning it up, but that was kind of him. And then also correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but not only was he on NXT on USA Network as LA Knight and working as himself as a threat to the champion and as this fucking, hey, dummy and, braggadocious fellow. But he actually, when he showed up on SmackDown and first said that he was Max Dupri with the male model business, except for wearing glasses, he was still kind of talking like himself, right? And yeah. I've never seen this before. Whatever we saw on Friday night on SmackDown, it's the first time I've ever seen it. Because all of a sudden, this guy, this braggadocious, ass-kicking, babyface in one place, but he was a heel in NXT. But the point is, he suddenly has become Bronson Pinchot in Beverly Hills Cop.
Surge?
It's good old Surge.
Ahmad Foley.
I don't know. I just don't know. And their catchphrase is, I don't know, they're titillating the juice. My juices didn't need titillated by this. They put poor L.A. Eli.
They titillated McAfee, it seemed.
McAfee pulled out his large throbbing penis and spewed piss all over this entire segment. And that's the only thing that made it bearable. And you could tell the other announcer, I can't remember what his fucking name is.
Michael Cole.
What was that, Michael? All right. I didn't know. I thought it was one of the other people that sounded like Michael Cole. If he had voice activation security on his phone, every other announcer in WWE could open his shit up. But Michael Cole is trying not to pull his pants down and take a tremendous projectile diarrhea on this thing. But McAfee is just pissed. I mean, I've never seen any stream of piss last this long in my life. He pissed all over it. But the thing is, I was embarrassed and I felt bad for Eli L.A. because he's talented. This is worse than the Red Rooster. Can anybody, first of all, the fans, just this presentation, within seconds were whatting him out of the building. And the problem was, he is so uncomfortable at doing this. And you could tell that they'd written this material for him where he's calling these models ma.cé and ma.cé out dressed in whatever the fuck they're wearing with the fanny pack around their neck and everything. And he's got to talk like they're on the runway. And he's got to talk with it's not homophobic because it's not like he's being afraid of. Is it homophobic if you're not acting like you're afraid of homosexuals? You're just acting like one in a stereotypical way when you're not one.
I didn't even think he was necessarily acting like he was gay or anything. I think the writers and or Vince McMahon think that that's what he's doing, and that's as gay as he can get away with on network television without some group complaining, they think. I think that's what they're going for. You can't tell me it's not. So you're saying you don't think Vince McMahon would ever do anything with a gay character on TV if it wasn't just mocking them or making fun of them?
So what I was saying was, so he's out there and they're making him talk like this and act like this, and he's dressed like this, and he's obviously uncomfortable because this guy can talk his ass off, but he's not only not able to memorize this shit because it's nothing that he's ever said before. I'm pretty sure he's never done commentary on a goddamn fashion show before. He's having to read off the cards that he's holding. It looks like he's reading the next model and doing that, but he's reading the fucking promo off the cards because these words mean as much to him as they did to me, because I've never done commentary on a fucking fashion show. And he's messing up his tenses and his syntaxes and everything because you could tell if you'd have shoved a lump of coal up his ass before he went out there, you'd have come back with a 10-carat diamond. He's trying to do, because I guess he figures, well, now I'm signed to these fucking assholes and this is going to kill my career. But maybe I can make however much money for the next 2 years if I do what they tell me to do. I don't know why you would be doing this.
Yeah, sadly, I think that's maybe the way you treat it. And I think that's the difference, the big difference between this and the Red Rooster. Terry Taylor was still on the rise when he went there. He was still relatively young when he went there. And he got saddled with a gimmick that no one could ever forget, that people would still do the rooster crow when he came out years later. LA Knight's in his late 30s, I believe. Right? Wasn't he like the oldest guy in NXT or one of them when we last looked?
He
37,
was.
38?
Yeah, which, remember I was saying, why do they put him in NXT? He needs to be on the main roster so he can work with some of these younger guys.
See, that's the difference. Terry Taylor derailed an entire career. This guy may be at the end of his career, and this may be his one chance to make some money on national TV. And I hate to look at it that way and justify it that way, but what else is it?
Either that or they've got a member of his family in a closet somewhere. Because elsewhere, I mean, I'm trying to think of any positive reason you would act like this, do this, go along with this, cooperate with this on national television. Otherwise, then they say you're fired if you don't, or we got Aunt Sue. She ain't going to be making you any more quilts where she's going, pal, unless you cooperate.
And the other thing is, what do you think the audience wants to see? Because the idea...
Not that. I was expecting to see fucking actual turds flying into the ring, hitting him in the face. From the people were like, no, we're not booing this. We're fucking hooting it out of the building. I don't know what the audience is for that. Why would they think anybody in their building would want to see that? It's gotta be Vince had to see a fashion show on TV accidentally. It's another one of these don't let Vince look at shit type of deals. And suddenly he got this idea and looked around and like, he could do it. That's got to be what it is.
This guy doesn't have an advocate, too. That's the other thing. Who's going to be the person that goes to Vince and goes, Vince, this is terrible. This guy's actually talented. We may be able to get something out of him for a couple of years.
Nobody.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody.
ma.cé and ma.cé or ma.cé.
Ma.cé and ma.cé.
Ma.cé.
Are they going to be a tag team?
I want to... Shit, they got to bring Justin Roberts back and give him a job again just to hear him announce those two.
You know who looks just like Justin Roberts? And I just
hopefully nobody. But
I just saw this commercial the other day. Remember a long time ago I said he reminds me of a flight attendant? I realize why. That Pepto-Bismol commercial where they're like, do you have, what is it? Heartburn, acid, indigestion, upset, and then the one flight attendant, diarrhea. That's Justin Roberts.
Well, I've said many times he's going to rupture himself in some fashion, given those introductions. But anyway, hopefully poor Max Dupri won't be ruptured by ma.cé and Maurice.
It's kind of cool to see this in a way because you get to point something out to the kids and say, look, this is what used to happen to OVW guys. This is the OVW treatment. This is what happened in the old days. I'm glad you get to see this nowadays.
Yeah. Well, Rico Cosentino, Rico, a former American Gladiator contestant that actually kicked the ass of the American Gladiators. He'd been both a paramedic, and a Las Vegas police officer. He was shot 3 times, stabbed twice, and hit by a car in the line of duty. He was a bodybuilder and a gymnast. He was able to talk his ass off. He was a great-looking guy, and they turned him into a gay hairdresser and ran him out of the business.
Yeah, that Billy and Chuck angle did wonders for everybody involved.
It did. And you know what? Here's the thing. Again, is that not I don't want to say homophobic because phobic is fear of. Is that not detrimental to or insulting to gay people when you have either people who aren't gay acting like they are gay? Isn't that kind of some equivalent of blackface? And or when you have gay people, whether they want to do it or not, presenting themselves on TV in outrageous stereotypes of what people think gay people act like.
Right. Well, but it is wrestling to an extent. I mean, Pete Buttigieg would probably not be a wrestling star. He'd probably be mid-card at best. Not flamboyant enough, not charismatic enough.
Well, I didn't say Pete Buttigieg was going to fucking be a goddamn, student of Hoist Gracie or anything like that, but I'm just saying there was, what the fuck was the guy's name?
Who?
The guy that I can't remember his fucking name, or else, yes. No, a fucking plumber I used one time. No, There was a wrestler on an NWA event I called 3, 4, 5 years ago, whatever, Mike Perro. And in the announcer notes was the fact that he was I can't remember how they phrased it. Was he the first openly gay wrestler in the NWA, or he had come out or done something or whatever? Okay, fine. That's in his notes. That's in his bio. He comes out. He's like 6'4". He's 250 pounds. He's fucking kicking ass. It was in his bio, and as announcers, we notated that. But there was no like, and then he's gonna stick his finger up the guy's ass and check his oil or whatever the fuck. So that's fine to me, because that's kind of what would happen in any other sport, right? But I think Vince is still, and even Adrian Street had a woman with him. So you were never sure. He never once said that he was gay. And he never once fucking did an angle based on being attracted to, in a relationship with or whatever, another guy. But he was exotic. So you didn't know.
He used his behavior as a weapon.
Yes. Behavior as a weapon. That's very good. Is that a new T-shirt? I might steal that.
No, but think about it. Was it Terry Taylor he kissed in a match to distract him, and Terry Taylor was wiping his face, and then he rolled him up and pinned him?
Yes, well, that
and then he hopped away with Linda.
Yeah, skipped. He didn't hop, he skipped.
Excuse me. Yes.
But and sometimes he would pay more attention to me when I was his manager than Linda, but, hey, because I was so charming. But the Dundee was the booker in Louisiana, stole that finish from one they did in Memphis. Remember, I was Adrian's first appearance on Memphis television. After he worked in Los Angeles, the LA territory, during the dying days of that, and came straight from there out to Tennessee when Dundee was booking. And his first match on TV, on live Memphis TV that Saturday morning, was he jumped up there was a job guy named Ira Reese. And he jumped up in Ira Reese's arms, and Ira catches him out of surprise, and he plants a big kiss on Ira Reese. When Ira Reese drops him, we're like, oh, shit. Then he rolled him up. Now, that necessarily, because he'd just done it in Los Angeles, and he'd done that kind of thing in England. But what complicated matters in Memphis was inadvertently, just because nobody actually in the locker room particularly thought of it. They were thinking the heat was on. Well, they're going to think this guy's gay and he's kissed this guy and a blah, 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 the exotic Adrian Street. So what slipped by until several of the viewers caught up with it and called the switchboard was that Adrian Street had just perpetrated the first gay interracial kiss in the history of Southern television. A white man had never kissed a black man on live Memphis TV on Saturday morning opposite to cartoons in 1982. And viewers called the switchboard to notate that. And they suggested that he might not do the kiss finish anymore on TV, but it was done. And who was it? Was it Jim Morrison said, hey, man, we did the fucking Ed Sullivan show.
There's something for the newspapers. The first same-sex interracial kiss on Memphis TV. Adrian Street and
I think
Ira
on
Reese.
TV anywhere south of Indiana, at least. And a funny thing enough, I was not his manager that week because he came out and he did that match and then he did his promo. And Adrian wasn't used to doing a lot of promos in America either because, he had just come from Los Angeles. And before that, England, they didn't do TV promos a lot over there. So the next week, Dundee said, you're managing Adrian Street. Oh, okay. And that way, Adrian had somebody talk for him and he could do his thing, and we kept him away from kissing black men on television. Where was all this going? It's your show. Have we started this program yet?
We started it. I think we finished a Max Dupri segment.
I think we did.